Hello and welcome to this new session on the second part of your syllabus, the book on Indian economic development. And today we'll try to learn about India on the eve of independence. In this uh, video, you will try to learn, in short, the economic policies adopted by British government and how it impact our country. And secondly, we'll look at the name of eminent economists, Indian economists in fact, who helped estimate India's per capita income during those days. And we'll try to look at sectors. First, agricultural stagnation, the reasons thereof, and look at some of the industries that we find today originated from British colonial era. And lastly, we'll try to look at the intention behind the deindustrialization of Indian industries, of course, by the British. We'll strictly follow NCERT textbook. And the first learning objectives that we are talking about is on the um, impact of British policies on our country. So what we find today in India has its root in history right from the rule of the British. And when British rule over India, its sole purpose was to reduce our country to being a material supplier for British industries. And by doing so, they tried to expand their industrial base. Remember, during that same time, Britain experienced the great industrial revolution. So they needed the raw materials to feed their hungry industries. That's why when they rule over us, they exploit our natural resources and raw materials and export it to their own country. And so, what were the policies we have learned? The policies pursued by the colonial government in India were concerned more with the protection and promotion of economic interests of their home country rather than with the development of Indian economy. They rule over us, they exploit our resources for the benefits of their own country. Such policies brought about fundamental changes in the structure of Indian economy, transforming the country into supply of raw materials and consumers of finished products, industrial products from Britain. So that's twofold. First, they exploited natural resources, agricultural products, carry it all over to Britain, feed in their industries, produce finished products, and those same finished products being sold back to India. So that's the policies which badly affected our country. So that's the first learning objectives of their policies. Secondly, let's try to find out, even though during the time there were eminent scientists, social scientists, economists of Indian origin, and of course foreigners at the same time, but they tried to find out, conducted a survey to find out the condition of people during those days. And let's find out the names of those people. Some individual attempts were made to measure incomes, and even though the results were not consistent, but what we need to know the names. The notable estimators like Dadabhai Naroji, William Digby, Finlay Shiraz, V.K.R.V. Rao, and R.C. Desai. These are the names of people whom today we got the data so that we can reflect back and learn conditions of people during those days. Second objective. Third objective is to look at important sector of country, because even today we are still agricultural economy, but during those days agriculture was stagnated. Let's see the reason why. Main causes of India's agricultural stagnation during the colonial period. And it's been said that under the British colonial rule, we were agrarian like today, of course, even though the percentage is lower now. Those days, 85% people lived mostly in village, meaning agriculture directly or indirectly. However, even though so many people engaged in that most important sector, but agriculture continued to experience stagnation. Why stagnation? And due to stagnation, there is also unusual deterioration. Agricultural productivity became low. Means whatever people produce, it's not up to what it should be. So let's try to find out the reasons. There are two main reasons, and the first one is very important because till today this is the culprit of making India in agriculture in bad shape. The first one is mainly because of the various systems of land holding system, the land settlement. And this land settlement was introduced by the colonial government, the British government, and that system is called the zamindari system. Who owns the land? It's not it. Or who will look after the land? Even though they implemented first in Bengal, and suddenly, in due course of time, it's covered all over the country. That land is under the um, management, watch of the zamindari system. So what we found is the profit accruing out of agricultural sector went to the zamindar instead of the cultivators. So whatever it's being earned from the sector goes to the zamindar instead of the real tiller of the soil, the cultivator. The cultivators were deprived of their rights. So these zamindars they did nothing to improve condition of the farmer. They remember they are Indians appointed by the British. The main purpose is to collect the tax. So they don't they didn't concern about the condition, what's the produce, what's the condition of the people. Their main interest was only to collect rent, regardless of the economic condition. Even if they found that they were in not in healthy condition, not in a profitable condition, these zamindars always exploited them because they got the power from the British. So that's why they caused immense misery and social tension among the cultivators. So that's the reason why people, they deprive of the right to own land. Even if they own land, in due course of time, they fail to pay the rent, which is very high, rent imposed by the zamindars. That's why these zamindars became powerful, and even if farmers, cultivators, their own land in the process, in the passage of time, to say, zamindars will snatch away their land due to not able to inability to pay the rent, or maybe because of loan taken from them. Many reasons, cultivators became landless. So that's the main reason why Indian agriculture became stagnated right from the time of British. The other reasons are low level of technology. How do you expect technology when the activity was so down, exploited. Even the cultivators fail to get what they deserve. How do you expect technology to develop? So that's why you have low level technology. Irrigation was so poor, and irrigation, apart from irrigation, fertilizers was negligible. All these factors taken together added up to aggravate the plight of the farmers, contribute to the dismal level of agricultural activity. So that's the learning outcomes that we touched from that objective. Now let's look at industries. Even though industries are not that strong, but there are some industries that do develop now, which has the origin from those days. So the objective here is to find first the the names of those types of um, industries which has the name of some modern industries which were in operation in a country at the time of independence. The cotton textile mills, because we have good cultivation of cotton, especially in western part of India, where the soil and the climatic condition is favorable for cultivation cotton. We had mills, cotton textile mills those days. State-wise, Maharashtra and Gujarat, while jute mills in the eastern part, mainly Bengal. So those were the main industries earlier originated earlier. Present today. Subsequently, we also have iron and steel industries beginning of 20th century. Prominent the Tisco Tata Iron and Steel Company 1907, and few others industries like sugar industry, cement, paper came up after Second World War on the eve of independence. However, we can't find any capital goods industries. Large basic industries fail to come up in India. That's why even today we are not that strong industrially. So that's another um, objective that you want to find out. And lastly, the twofold objectives of the British government to bring about the industrialization of to pre-independence India. Okay, the primary motive, objective, or the intention of the colonial government behind this policy of systematically deindustrializing. You understand, deindustrializing means to bring down industries, like it's the opposite of industrialization. The first, to reduce India to the status of mere exporter of important raw materials. That's we have talked about, touched upon in the first objective, that British wanted India simply to export the raw materials. It can be raw cotton, raw jute, can be coal, it can be natural resources of many kinds that we have, so that it caters to the need of modern industries in Britain during those days. So export means carried over from India to Britain the raw materials. And second, twofold objectives. Second, to turn India into a sprawling market for the finished products of those industries, so that their continued expansion could be ensured to the maximum advantage of their home country, Britain. So when they produced on a large scale, India became their market. You understand the condition of the people. People in India were poor. They were exploited. They were at the same time forced to buy British goods, goods which were made from Indian raw materials. So, in the unfolding economic scenario, the decline of indigenous handicraft, what's affected is the most famous handicraft industry in India. And this important sector in India created not only massive unemployment, people were out of the job, but also new demand in the Indian consumer market, which was now deprived of supply of locally made goods. We had to buy from British. The British produced goods. We were deprived of the locally made goods. So you understand the Indian artisans, the local producers were badly affected. This demand was profitably met by the increased imports of cheap manufactured goods from Britain. So what we have instead is, instead of buying Indian products, we have to buy Britain's produced goods, and these are cheap because produced by industries on a large scale. So those were the topics we'll touch upon today regarding India on the eve of independence. So what you've learned, we learned about those questions like the focus of economic policies pursued by colonial government and its impact, notable economists who estimated India's per capita income, main causes of Indian agricultural stagnation, many reasons, but we touched upon one importantly and the others mentioned. We also knew that some industries were strong during times of independence, and also the motive behind the industrialization of our country by the British. Okay, and we'll continue, we'll look at other sectors in the next video, foreign trade and others.